Well, it's a ShrimpNet welcome, the podcast from the Shrimps Trust. We're here again with episode 5. Plenty going around the club this week. Our own Carabao Cup adventures continuing. So Joel and myself are joined by a tame board member. It's the co-chairman, who I always call the chief executive because he likes it. Star of H.G. Wells' classic Hollywood, The Time Machine. It's Rod Taylor. Thanks for joining us, Rod.
It's a pleasure, David.
And making his debut appearance following intense negotiations with his agent, Mrs. Cooper, and he took a bottle of white wine. It's former editor and Bay Radio and iFollow summariser and season ticket holder for 1,000 years, Glenn Cooper. Glenn, thanks for joining us.
And last 3 games away, traveller.
Oh, what can I say? What can I say? I'm not going to mention you were on holiday for first 3, but oh yeah, I have. Sorry, making up for lost time. So, ideal then to start with Oxford United. A difficult place. We got absolutely dicked there 3-1 last season. I thought they looked a good side last season. They've lost a couple of players, replaced them with what you would say was good players. But overall, I was pretty chuffed with the 1-1 there, Joel.
Yeah, I think going into the game, taking a point away at Oxford, I think we were always going to be quite pleased with taking that result. I thought, yeah, defensively again, it was a really solid game. We probably didn't get as much going up the pitch as we probably would have wanted to, but at the same time, we're still gelling in that department. And obviously, Ash Hunter going off injured early just wasn't very helpful. But yeah, I thought overall we kind of kept Oxford at a relatively good distance for a lot of the game. They were having a lot of shots from range that we were kind of putting them under pressure for. And the goal we do score, it's a lovely move. It's Fane has a little moment when he turns into prime Messi down that touchline, doesn't he? With the little kind of keeping it with his head and all that, and laying it inside. And then it's a lovely run from Love, I think, as well. Coming in from wing back just to get another man in the box. And then the vision to kind of see Weir on the edge of the box, and the lovely, delicate little touch, just kind of the little kind of back heel. It's not quite a back heel, is it? But just the edge of the box, and Weir's connected with it well. So it's a really nicely worked goal. It's just a shame we weren't able to hold out in the league much longer. And it's a funny place where the opposition goals the Oxford goals come from, because it's a corner, which we've looked quite imperious defending so far this season. But yeah, there's been obviously, it looks like Ripley's gone to save it, and then Stockton has also gone to clear it, which happens, and then it's kind of bounced up from there, and they've turned it in. But then yeah, even after that, I didn't think there were too many really scary moments. I think while we've taken a lot of pressure in games, and I guess would be nice to do some more at some different points in the game to relieve a bit of that pressure. At the same time, it's not like Ripley's having to pull off 2 or 3 worldies every game.
No,
he had a good performance, made a lot of good, decent saves on against Oxford, but it's not like every game he's having to kind of absolutely work his socks off, tipping things around away from the top corner or anything. We're keeping people at relatively good length when we're defending, which is good.
And I think from a fan's point of view, we've now proved, yes, we conceded 3 at Peterborough. A couple of the fans made the point last night on Facebook that we've conceded 3 in the rest of the games. And that's pretty good. And I think it is important. And I know a couple of people made the point that Fane, as a defensive midfielder, and I made the point myself, absolutely brilliant at getting in the way and blocking things and what have you. But the last couple of games has tended to give it away pretty quickly as well, which is a bit unfortunate. But then to prove he broke the mould, like you said, he intercepted it, kept it in with his head, did a little dance down the left-hand side, knocked it inside. And then Donald Love's there with a little bit of a back heel on the penalty spot. And it's like, I think that comes down, Glenn, to, we know that Derek wants everybody to do the defensive work, but when we go forward, he gives everybody freedom, doesn't he?
I think that's it. And I think the performances have shown a development game on game. I think there's been an improvement, particularly in the last 3 games. And I don't know, the Peterborough one, I think everybody feared the worst after that game. It was sort of, if we can't defend, what can we do? Because we know we've got issues up front. But Bolton and Oxford, I think, were kind of a rehearsal for the Rotherham game, if you will. They were honing the sort of shape that they were holding. The first half at Oxford was terrible. It was really dull, negative game. But the second half, we played some quite enterprising stuff. We got the goal, and I honestly thought we would hang on for that. And we went on to do that at Rotherham.
Well, Connolly's break where he squared it back for Weir and he couldn't get it on top. That caught him out. And I was thinking, get another one there and they're dead and buried.
And of course, Connolly started at Rotherham. And while individually he's not quite clicked yet, he's not quite done it, I think the fact that he's got that pace, and they can see that with him there and with Arthur playing in that role, we've got an out ball that poses some kind of threat. It just gives a different dimension. But the shape last night was immaculate. Everybody, as soon as they lost the ball, they were right behind it. There was players covering for each other. And I think they've got the confidence to do that from the preceding games. The game at Oxford showed, we can hang on to something and we can keep our shape. And I think that gave us a bit more confidence. We were more positive at Rotherham, and Rotherham put out pretty much a full strength side. I think both sides had about as good a team, first 11, as they could field. Neither were taking it lightly at all. And we took the game to them in the first 10, 15 minutes. We took the game to them. Then they came back into it a bit, and they dominated possession, but it always looked comfortable. We never looked like conceding at all. And of course we didn't. We restricted them to, I think, 0 shots on target, or 1 maybe. And all the rest, if you weren't there, if you managed to see the stats, all the shots that they had were yards above the bar. I mean, there were no threat whatsoever. And I think we got the confidence to do that from the 2 preceding games. And I've seen a definite improvement game on game in the 4 that I've seen.
When you look at it in the cold light of day, Rod, obviously he's put together a complete new defence after the conceding 88 goals last season in the league. We don't, I'm saying this now, and obviously last season we got beat by MK Dons 4-0 at home, but we don't look like a side that's going to concede 88 goals. But conversely, we don't look like a side that's going to score millions either. But it's at the moment it's working, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to build this. I think after last season, we've got to build it from the back and get it organised defensively. I think that it's done that really well. I think as well, we talked about Conor before, Conor Ripley, and I just see a very solid keeper there. Some of the stuff he's fielded over the last few games, balls bouncing immediately in front of him. His positional sense looks excellent, and his handling looks excellent. So I think there is a real defensive line there with the lads in front of him that's working pretty well. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. A little bit disappointed with the highlight programs, because I think Fane's build up to the goal at Oxford should have been shown, because it was excellent, and it was missed out. And every clip I've seen, it's been missed out. But yeah, a good job done. Again, you look at the injury situation, illnesses, and we are struggling there. Look at last night at Rotherham, with the academy boys on the bench, which would be a great experience for them, travelling with the squad and being there. But it does stretch you. Yeah, inevitably. So moving on to what many were calling, we called it last week a free hit at Rotherham, and it turned out to be just that, Joel. And as Glenn's already alluded to, we looked pretty solid. Rotherham put out a pretty strong side, although there were 10 changes from Saturday, but they've got a really strong squad because they've reinvested with the money that they've got off Sheffield Wednesday for Hickey and Smith, etc. But certainly unexpected, and King Arthur did the job again, Joel.
He did, yeah. I mean, in fairness to Rotherham, they've you can see how well they built the squad. I think Smith and the Hickey were both on freeze. I think they were both out of contract, so they've done really well to kind of spread the money out around the squad, because they made 9 changes. They didn't have Ogbene, Wiles or Barletzer in the starting 11, which are, you know, 3 great players, but then they've still got people like Rathbone, Lindsay, Tom Eaves is a good championship centre forward. That Georgie Kelly's good. Lad on loan from Arsenal, right wing back. You know, some cracking players, really experienced fella. Oh, I can't remember what he's called. The fella who went down a couple of times in the first half, centre back for Rotherham. And Mace Arden is a good player as well. But yeah,
he did bring the big guns on though, didn't he? He brought
they got a Benny and the Barletzer on at the end, didn't they? So you know, it was kind of in that regard, it was job done from us. We made them have to get the big guns out. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for them. But yeah, I thought kind of what Glenn said. Really, like it was a really, really solid defensive performance. I think everybody knew their job. People were covering for each other. If one person got beaten, somebody would shift out. And, you know, when you're defending, you kind of have to make these kind of constant little readjustments, don't you? If somebody ever gets pulled out of position, and it's going to happen throughout a game because that's what teams will try to do to you. But we didn't really very often look like we were kind of floundering around with people chasing shadows and spaces and stuff. It all seemed very kind of linked up, and everybody kind of knew what they should be doing at certain moments, and that's really positive to see. And again, just I kind of back what Glenn said again. You know, Connolly, he hasn't, he's not had a goal and assist yet, but it's that stretching of the defense. You know, knowing that if something pops in behind, it's in the back of the defender's heads that he can run onto it and pull you around a bit. So it is a massive threat. And then again, you know, Arthur. In his words, he doesn't really score simple goals, does he? So fantastic to see him get on the score sheet again. He's a player I really like. I really like how he handles the ball in tight situations and receives it with his back to goal. He's very willing to get forward, and I know you're a big fan of him getting a shot away and stuff like that. So you know, it's great to see somebody who is able to do that. And it's a nice little bit of skill to get himself in the position. And yeah, a word for Caleb Watts as well, I think, because you know, he's come on. He's not had that much football. I kind of get the feeling that he's a very intense and direct player, Caleb Watts. He's full of energy. But obviously, coming into a side like ours, there's a kind of element of positional discipline that you got to learn, and you can't just hair after everybody because you'll leave a gap somewhere. So maybe Derek's trying to slowly kind of slowly ease him into that and nurture him into that. Yeah, and he's come in and he's not commit. He's not just, and he's pinched the ball off the defensive midfielder, and then Arthur's be able to run through. So you know, you can see him getting into that role. And as I'm sure we'll talk about later with Hunter's injury, he's probably going to play more of a part over the next few weeks.
And I'll come back to you now, Glenn, because one of the points you made was, which was obvious last night, is that
I only make obvious points.
Yeah, I think
obvious.
Yeah, obviously. So yeah, it was one of the things that we said last week was if we're only going to have roughly sort of 35% possession, last night's was 38, which is good, then we've got to have better than sort of 65-66% passing accuracy. And our passing accuracy was a lot better in the first half against Rotherham and in the second half, up to the edge of their box, wasn't it? We were playing neater football.
We were. I mean, there's always a worry. I had this conversation with somebody at work today, as it happened. And while we're playing that system where we're keeping things tight and we're looking on the break, we've got to be able to break efficiently, and we've got to be clinical in front of goal because, you know, in this division particularly, I don't think we can go through a full season without having a better attacking threat, if I'm being honest, and hope to survive. And I know the person I'm talking to today said, well, we did it when we got promoted. You know, that was Derek's strategy, wasn't it? You know, let them have possession as whatever percentage you're talking about, as long as it's in non-dangerous areas. And then we make sure that, you know, our 20% possession is effective and is in dangerous areas. And I think we can do that, but we do need the forward players to do it. And you know, I said before the start of the season, even with Obika and Cole Stockton, I still thought we needed a little bit more up front. And I still hold to that view. I think, you know, the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, whenever the loan transfer window as well, that's important. Whenever that closes, it's going to be crucial, because I honestly believe if we don't get something extra there, there's only so many times you can hold out with that strategy. You know, Oxford did attack us. They attacked us in numbers. They didn't make quite so many openings, but better teams will do. You know, better teams will create more chances, and I think you're walking a tightrope if you think you're going to hold that. This is Harry in this division and be successful. We managed it really well in League Two, but I think we had, you know, a decent attacking threat there as well. So while I'm saying we're improving every game, I think we've got the foundation there now, and we've got the defensive system really good, and everybody knows the jobs. And they played a fantastic shape at Rotherham. You could see it from where our position quite high up. You could see the rotation of the players covering for each other, and there was never a gap really for them to exploit. Now that's all well and good, but you do need to score. And you know, against, I won't say better teams than Rotherham, I think that was a really, really good performance. But you know, against better teams than maybe Oxford and Fleetwood, you might struggle, because they will create those chances. So I think we just need, over the next few weeks, we need to make sure we sort out the forward area of it, because I think the basis is there. It's a really strong foundation that Derek's created for us now.
So that leads nicely into Rod with the situation with obviously, as you touched on before, the illness that swamped through the camp this week, because obviously there was loads of people missing last night, and 4 academy lads on the bench. So it was all hands to the pump. And obviously, looking at the team we started with, you know, we got Dylan Connolly and Arthur, who were both sort of wide midfielders, they can attack. But we didn't really have a recognised centre forward. So Cole was it a thigh strain or groin strain or something like that last night, Rod?
Yeah, groin strain. I mean, once again, David, as soon as he wasn't on the team sheet, the rumour mill starts.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I asked. So.
We cannot respond to that at every verse end. It would just be impossible, and I feel counterproductive. So, you know, we'll say things when there's something to say, and if there is anything to say, we're not going to say it for the sake of saying it. So, you know, at the moment, you've got Max Melbourne, Cole Stockton, Ash Hunter, unfortunately, with his injury at Oxford, and Courtney out, together with Ryan and McLaughlin as well. So, yeah, it was down to the bones last night. But, you know, we've got a job to do. I listened to the Rotherham manager earlier on, and you know, they didn't have a shot on target. They didn't have one shot on target. They didn't work the keeper. And as he said, in the Championship, you know, teams go toe to toe with them. And what happened last night, from what I saw, we got behind the ball and effectively nullified their threat. That's how I saw it. So. Yeah, they brought the big guns on later on, but that backfired. So, you know, I think it was a brilliant performance.
Well, you've got to be happy with it, really, because like I said in the intro, everybody just said it was a free hit and let's go there and see what happens. Now, obviously, when this goes out, the draw, we're recording this Wednesday evening, and so the draw is made tonight. And everybody's saying, who do you want? Because obviously all the Premiership teams and all the top sides come into it, which is fantastic, and it goes national, which is brilliant. So I've said straight, me being the fatalist, I've said straight away, Crawley away, because that's just the way I
Stevenage.
think. Yes, old Stevenage. That's the two I picked. Stevenage away, who are unbeaten, and obviously we know what we're going to get out of them. It's the bus driver. So from that point of view, it'd be lovely. And I know that, you know, I heard Derek's interview today saying, you know, it'd be nice to get a Premier League team away, because that might free up the budget for him, which I thought was quite presumptuous, Rod. He's gone. Yes, he's definitely. Has he frozen, or is he ignoring me question? Who knows?
I think frozen.
He was saying his bandwidth was struggling.
Yeah, it is.
Living out on the coast.
He usually pulls the blinds down. So we obviously by the time this goes out, people will know who we've got. And obviously, me being fatalistic, I'm going to say Crawley or Stevenage away. Oh, Rod's back.
You froze then, Freeze.
I didn't. You did.
It was actually a freeze frame.
Yeah,
Freeze froze.
Yeah. What's the past tense? So did you hear what I said?
No.
Right. I said, obviously, me being the fatalist, I said we'll get Crawley or Stevenage away. But I heard Derek's interview today saying that we will, if we get a Premier League team away, it might free up a bit of budget for him, which I thought was quite presumptuous. Is he putting you under pressure there?
Well, I think that's got to happen, and we have talked about this. You know, football fortune earned at some point has to be back into the football club, whether that's infrastructure. But right now, I think the important thing is putting it into the squad and making those funds available for Derek. I have no doubt in my mind that that's what we should be doing and will do.
Well, that's good to hear, isn't it? That is good to hear.
It's got to be the case, David. You know, I know that Derek has got targets together with Greg Strong. They work very hard on recruitment, and now we've got an opportunity. Hopefully, depending how tonight's draw goes, let's hope we can just have a bit of fortune out of this, and I can assure supporters that we will look to invest that in the squad. So
Stevenage away it is then, Joel.
Definitely, there's no doubt about it. We've had too much luck over the past few years, haven't we, with Chelsea and Tottenham? Well, Chelsea was a bit bad luck in many ways because it was behind closed doors. But
the only two people who were there were, well, three people were me, Glenn, Quinny, and Rod. That was all who was there.
I feel a bit left out now, really. But no, I mean, obviously,
when Adam Phillips did that cross that Ariza Balaga saved on the line, me, obviously split loyalties. Even I was like, oh, nearly. But there you go. Can't be.
I know it was probably one of the best things that Ariza Balaga had done in a very long time in a Chelsea shirt, because it was a wicked little cross. But yeah, I mean, I'd love one of the Manchester clubs away. Not Rochdale.
Well, they're out, aren't they?
They're out, so there's no chance of that. So
Aldeburgh Conference, so we're all right.
Oh, I know, yeah. So yeah, City United would be great. Obviously, Leeds away, I'd absolutely love, because I went uni there, obviously. So
go on then. Who are we predicting?
I've told you mine.
Yeah, I think definitely Stevenage away. I think as well, because they've got a real as well as being unbeaten. They've scored a last-minute winner or equaliser in a lot of their games this season.
In every game since they've took over, yeah.
So you're saying Crawley, you're saying Stevenage.
Yeah.
Go on, Rod.
No, I'm not predicting it, but
if they do
Stevenage, then who do you want in the fourth round?
Right, I'll make my prediction. Nottingham Forest at home.
That'd be tricky. That really would be tricky. But obviously, it's by the time people listen to this, they'll know. So,
so I might have to cut that then. Now,
yeah, right. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. If one of us is right, if I'm right, I'll keep it in.
So, I want to chat a little bit now about somebody who you touched on before, Joel, and that's Caleb Watts, and the fact that he shows a lot of promise. Like you say, nick the ball away to give Arthur the freedom to crack it in the bottom corner. He looked like a talent. He came on against Middlesbrough. He did well when he came on against Shrewsbury. Did well when he came on against Stoke. And probably it's coming up to looking at the situation we've got with injured forwards. It might be his time to shine, hopefully.
Yeah, it is very much looking like we might be getting towards that point, isn't it? I think, what I like about him is he plays in a way that I don't really associate with most under-23 players, and that he's got a bit of intensity and purpose about him. When he gets the ball, he likes to take it on the half turn and really drive forwards, and is very positive and very brave in how he tries to use the ball, and that he'll take people on, he'll look for a forward and slightly more risky pass. So, yeah, I think that's a really positive thing. I think that's something that will be harder to drill into his system. I think maybe at the moment it's just a bit of positional discipline and looking over your shoulder and not just herring after every defender who's got the ball for the opposition. But I think that's something that can easily be taught a little bit with a bit of experience. Whereas that intensity in his play, that's kind of the fact that that's already come with him, that's really, really good. And yeah, we've seen little flashes of ability, not too much yet. And obviously, he had that shot against Stoke, which very, very nearly went, and that would have been quite something with 10 men. But
that was just against the team from a division above. The way he just dropped his shoulder, absolutely dumped his man on his arse, created the space for himself, and then unleashed what you would class as a thunderbolt, which I thought at the time grazed the bar, but didn't, but was like so close and brought the ground to its feet. You're just thinking that for that one moment alone, that lad's got something.
Exactly, yeah. And then to go and take the penalty as well, very, very, very coolly, I thought. It shows that, he's got a decent kind of mentality about him, maybe, and he's got that intensity to his play. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's able to contribute to the squad. I know he's thought of quite highly from a couple of scouts and apparently from within Southampton's academy. So, yeah, looking forward to him getting more of an opportunity. It's how football works. People get injured, and we don't want to see Ash Hunter injured. At the same time, it's an opportunity for somebody like Watts to come and, show what he can do a bit more.
Absolutely.
And it is a shame about Ash, Glenn, because I know that he's a player that we've admired, and obviously we were fortunate enough to be at the Salford game when he single-handedly destroyed us, despite the fact that we played brilliantly that night at Salford in the promotion season. And Derek had his little spat with the manager who's now manager of Orient. But and it is a shame for Ash, but like I say, it's an opportunity for Caleb. And you saw him come on the other night, and he stuck to the system really well and did okay.
Yeah, I think Joel made a really good point about sort of educating players before they're allowed to, slot into the first team, if you will. Yeah, going back to Ash Hunter, that was the name that excited me in the close season of all the signings we made. Farron Rawson as well, and I think he's been excellent.
Brilliant.
But it was Hunter that I thought, now you've got somebody who can sort of dictate the pattern of our forward play. And when we've got what's looking like such a strong foundation at the back, you give it to somebody like here and he says, right, this is what we're doing with it now, lads. This is where we're going with it. You go over there, I'll take it here. He can cut inside, he can shoot with both feet. Yeah. So yeah, I was gutted to see him go. But Caleb Watts is another one. I think what Derek's been doing with the three youngsters, with Jensen Weir and Jake Taylor and him, he's waiting until they're sort of familiar with the system that we're playing and they know the job that they're doing. I think he's confident that Jensen and Jake are there now. And when I talk about improvement game on game, they've been important in that. Yeah, we've brought Bedo back in, and we've had to sort of mould that back three, and that's meant a shift with the wing backs. They can now push on a little bit more because we've got that familiar back three. But I think the improvement above that in the performances has come from those two in the middle, and they're getting a real understanding now, Jensen and Jake. And I think
both got good engines.
And they seem to be understanding where each other is going to go, and it was particularly evident last night. There was a sign of it there at Oxford on Saturday, a few little moves, and of course Jensen got the goal. But last night, I think that was the crux of our midfield, and they were knocking it about in little triangles with the wing backs. There was several occasions where we looked like we were going to get the ball taken off us in really tight spaces, and they were really nice little triangles to get it out of that danger and then set up attacks. And I think that's an understanding that's coming on. And like you say, Joel, I think given the chance now, he's committed to playing him. I think Caleb's going to get more time on the pitch because of the circumstances, unfortunate though they are. But last night, as well as the tackle that he made that led to the goal, every time he lost the ball, he was straight back and covering. And I think that was probably the little worry why he's not started games at the start of the season, because that needs, you're a great player. We know that you've got skills, but look, we're a team and we have to be a team. to survive in this league. We have to have the right shape, and you're important in that. And I think that'll come. And there was really good signs last night that's developing. And I think Derek's done the right thing in introducing all those three, the young lads, introducing them gradually, and particularly the two in the middle. I think they've got a real understanding now. I was worried, I have to say, we'd lost Toombs, we lost Wildig, we lost Adam Phillips, and player for player, I was looking at the replacements and saying, I don't know whether that's an improvement.
No.
And we knew that the squad had to improve. He said that the squad last season wasn't good enough, and everybody agreed with him. It wasn't good enough to do anything but struggle at that bottom end. So if you're going to improve, you need individual players to be better than the ones they replace. And I was worried that they weren't, if I'm being honest. But I've seen really promising signs in these last three games that there's partnerships forming there. There's players becoming aware of the system he wants to play. And I'm far more positive about the rest of the season, even given the sort of proviso about I still think we need something more up top. But I'm far more confident now than I was 2 weeks ago, even.
And
some great performances then as well. You look at Ryan Delaney. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. Liam Gibson has put in some great performances, and getting Jacob back as our player as well. Not a lone player now. He's our player, and that makes a hell of a difference.
And we've already mentioned Big Faz. Big Faz has been exactly what we expected.
Has he lost a header this season?
Well, Joel will tell us that. I think he's lost one in each match, but he's like
I think in the first 4 matches, I haven't checked it since properly, but in the first 4 matches, he had an aerial win rate of about 87%, which is absolutely. I think anything above 60 is quite good. So to have a win rate of 87% over 4 matches is pretty daft.
I think there was one last night where he went up with Eves, and Faz didn't win it, but he made sure that Eves couldn't do anything at all with it. And he sort of watched, and it was like, I don't think I'm going to win this, but I'm making sure that you can't do anything with it.
Exactly. No, that's what you need to do, isn't it? If you can't win it, make their life horrible.
Well, he's in many ways he's a typical Derek type of centre half. He wants no nonsense. He wants, if Faz wins it, if he has time, he'll give it somebody. If he hasn't, he'll get it in row T. And I know that some people find that frustrating. We're like, but I don't. A defender is there to do that. Our wing backs are there to sort of like create as well as defend. But our 3 centre halves, they're there to stop. That's all they're there to do.
However,
although like Rod says, Delaney's distribution has been superb. I mean, I think I texted you from the Bolton game.
You did,
saying, who's this player who's been wearing Delaney?
Who's wearing Delaney's shirt, yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectful, but this season we saw nothing of this kind of ability, and I'm chuffed to bits for the lad because he seems a really good lad, and he's one of these who you want to do well. And the last 2 games, I said to my wife last night, and I said to the lad next to us on Saturday, if there were scouts at those 2 games, they'd be going, who's that lad at centre-back for Morecambe? Because he's been absolutely outstanding.
I was watching the Rotherham game back, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Like, I think Gibson was probably man of the match for me because some of the the ground he covered. There was a 3 ball he played to Connolly that was delightful, and then he got the ball nutmegged Wes Harding. It's fantastic. And he managed to keep a bit of a hold on Benny as well when he came on, and the Arsenal loanees, fantastic. But the way that Delaney battled, and when he wasn't winning the head, he was making his life hard. He was getting in front of his man. People were popping the ball into Tom Eves, and Tom Eves, as he was, trying to hold off the ball.
And he's a good player.
He's a good player. He's exactly, and Delaney was getting a foot round him and just making his life horrible, and sometimes even getting in ahead of him. So it's fantastic to see that kind of, because he. As Glenn has already said, like some of the kind of the passes he plays to kind of break through lines of the opposition defense and their midfield and whatever, they've been fantastic. But having that aggression as well, that he's really kind of brought a bit more of in his game this season compared to last, and it's been fantastic to see.
And sorry, David, I keep interrupting, cutting across you. Where do you see Jensen Weir then? Do you see him as a holding midfielder? Is he offensive? Is he more defensive? Where do you see him?
I think a bit of both. I think he is kind of. I think what I quite like about Jensen Weir is he's had that season with Cambridge last season, and I think that's a really handy club to kind of precede with us because they also don't have very much possession. They're very organised and very disciplined. They all play for each other, and they've got a lot of the values and how they play are quite similar to us. So I think he's already kind of had a bit of a dosage of that, and yeah, I think as we've seen, he's got some really nice. It's weird. He's not dissimilar to Jake Taylor. I can't quite pin down
for each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it feels like they can work in tandem quite nicely. One of them can go up, and then one of them and contribute and has the ability to contribute in the final third, but also can hang back a little bit, receive the ball from defenders in deeper positions and spread the play a bit, but also be able to kind of physically hold their own. I don't think either of them are physically kind of lightweight. So yeah, I'd say he's probably a bit of an all-rounder, probably pushing towards a bit more of the attacking side of it than somebody like Fane or Gibson when he plays in midfield. But yeah, a great all-round. He's a really good.
I think it depends as well on what formation he chooses. If he has Fane in there, then he will push forward a little bit more. He didn't start with Fane against Oxford. So, in that situation, then he would probably drop back and just cover a little, pick it up from the midfield a little, from the defence a little bit more.
But strangely, obviously, Taylor covered for him and he scored the goal.
Exactly.
I think, Glenn, that's how I see him. I just see him as a Jensen interceptor.
No,
you set us up for that.
How long you've been waiting?
You set us up for that.
You just let me ramble on, loving the sound of my own voice there, just very patiently.
Anyway, all right, moving swiftly on. Thank you for that, Rod. Speaking of, obviously, we talked about the resurrection of Delaney, and I noticed yesterday, making his second appearance, Anthony O'Connor again did well when he came on. And I'm chuffed to bits for him. There were certain fan groups saying, oh, get rid. And I never understood that because I thought he was one of our best players last season. And I know at the end of the season, we went with Bennett and we went with Bedo. But that's because, obviously, we always have a big, horrible centre-half and a footballing centre-half. And O'Connor and Bedo are too similar, which I understand. And I know Derek likes a big, horrible one. But Ockers came on and did that absolutely goal-saving tackle, which went out for a corner. And again, he came on last night and did well. And personally, I'm chuffed to bits for him because I think he's got a part to play. And if we are going to play three centre-backs, which seems the way we're going, then we need a fourth who can slot in, don't we, Joel?
Yeah, definitely. And he has an element of versatility that we're probably going to be able to make good use of. If obviously he's a very capable centre-back. I think. Yeah, he's maybe a bit for how Derek likes the centre backs to be. I think he's probably more on the Bordeaux end rather than the Rawson end. But he is, but then and on the kind of Stephen Robinson scale of things, he was the aggressor compared to Bordeaux. So it kind of can vary a bit because he has got an aggressive side to his game. He does love getting stuck in. You can see that in his play. But I mean, it's been interesting to see his versatility in the past couple of games because he's kind of sat in front of the defence when he's come on and done a good job there. But I think it's worth noting he played right back for a long time at Bradford, but I think just over half a season and did well there. Their fans were pleased with how he did there. So pleasing Bradford fans isn't it's not an easy thing to do. But and then I know exactly. So and then at Aberdeen, I think that was where Stephen Robinson saw him a lot and liked him a lot. He was actually playing defensive midfield, I think, and I think he did an all right job there. And he's technically a good footballer. So especially because obviously Fane's the only proper defensive midfielder that we've got at the minute, really, and Gibson was coming in there as well. But obviously, with Melbourne being injured for a couple of months now, I think it is, Gibson's basically going to have to always be on left back or left wing back. So having that extra option in defensive midfield, whether it's to play alongside Fane to come on for the last 10 minutes or compete with Fane and maybe take Fane's place for a few games and drive each other their performances and stuff. But having that option in the squad's really, really handy. And yeah, I'm really happy there's been a route back in for him because we've had him on the podcast. He's a really good bloke and he's a good footballer. So yeah, I'm glad.
an unfortunate injury to Max Melbourne, and like I said, and I've said this before, the jury's out. We haven't seen enough of Max to decide, what's he good at, etc., etc., etc. But the one thing that we do know is that, and we were saying this on the terraces at the last home game when we drew with Fleetwood, is the fact that when Max got injured, it's horrible for the lad, and I'm sorry for him, but Gibbo, ideal replacement, Glenn.
He is, yeah, and to me, more natural position. Although I think he's such a good footballer, he plays well wherever he puts him. But I like to see him on that left. And last night he was up and down that pitch, and the lad was absolutely shattered at the end of the game when he was brought off. But yeah, our man of the match by a long way in a team of good performers last night. Going back to O'Connor, I don't know. I don't see it as an ability thing. I think he showed last season that he was a very capable player. After a few shaky games right early on, I think he was either man of the match or second to man of the match in nearly every game he played in that one. It's some fantastic last-ditch tackles, but he just was he injured or suspended? I can't remember, but he dropped out of the side.
Injured.
He was running, and then Bennett came in, and Bennett and Badeau just played brilliantly. And you know what Derek's like? Whoever you are, you don't walk straight back into a team if the player who's replaced you is playing well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe there was a little clash there or something. O'Connor might have thought, I'm club captain, I should come back in when I'm fit. I don't know. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but Derek has never done that. He's never done that. If a player comes in to replace somebody who's suspended or injured, until that player shows a loss of form, he keeps his place. And right enough with Bedeau and Bennett, I think Bedeau, Bennett and Carson at the end of last season kept us in that division.
Yeah,
I thought they were fantastic. And I wouldn't have put O'Connor straight back in.
No.
As good as he was, because I couldn't see anything in the partnership with Bedeau and Bennett that needed replacing. I thought they were excellent. I really did. So I thought it was just unfortunate for O'Connor, but I didn't see it as a O'Connor's ability thing that had seen him slip away. So I was quite surprised when I heard that he was, available for release this close season, and I'm chuffed to bits that he's back in the fold, and I hope he stays there, as Joel said, because I think he's got a lot to offer.
And a bit of good news that came out this week, Rod, and I know that it's difficult times, but it was eventually revealed in the press that Derek had tried a move for Carlos Mendes Gomez on loan from Luton, but there was no chance because Luton wanted to play a large percent of his wages, which we couldn't afford, and obviously Fleetwood can. And I think that put a lot of people's minds at rest, because there was a bit of unrest. We're like, why really not got Carlos? And I think it was a good thing to do to release that information. I think Derek plays the press very, very well. But it is also, as a fan, nice to know that we were in for him, because we class him as our lad, don't we?
Yeah, it was a genuine attempt to get Carlos back as well. Unfortunately, money does dictate at times, and it was beyond us. If you go down that route, then we've got to make sure the recruitment side of it is done effectively, but sensibly as well. And it just wasn't to be. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. We had discussions about it, but we had a limit on where we could go financially with it, and that was it.
But it at least it's showing the ambition of, well, if he's available for loan, then we should be looking at him, because we nurtured the lad, didn't we? So
yeah, absolutely. And Derek talked to the Luton manager. A discussion took place, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out.
No, and obviously I do wish Carlos well, but I was sad that he got injured straight away as he came on for Fleetwood, which is unfortunate, because I do think the lad's got a future in the game. But there you go.
Yeah, indeed.
So moving on, obviously we've got MK Dons on Saturday. We were 6-0 on aggregate last season, and didn't really get a kick in either game. Well, actually, that's not fair. The 4-0 I think kind of flattered them a bit, Joel, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a bit. I thought the 2-0 away at theirs, they were going to coast in kind of dominant win mode towards the end of the season, much like we were when we went up. So yeah, it's one of those, and on that massive pitch that they have, you know, when they went a goal up early, they were always going to kind of coast it and see the game out, and there wasn't really any question that I thought in the end. But yeah, looking at this season, they've struggled. They've. I'm just looking at some of the numbers. They're still playing quite how they play, you know, passing it around a bit. But I think they've changed to a back four. Looking at the chances they've created from open play, expected goals, and all that. Sorry, but Derek's a fan, so I'm just agreeing with Derek. But they're the lowest in the division, so they're not really creating very much at the moment.
If you look at it, they've lost Harry Darling, they've lost Scott Twine, and Troy Parrott, and all three of those are instrumental, because Darling obviously scored against us from out of nothing. Twine, we know from his Newport days, he was an absolute pain in the arse. And Parrott's gone up a division to Preston. He's doing really well there. So it's not really surprising. To replace those three quality, it's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Exactly. And you can kind of see it in their slow start. I mean, look, I'm sure they'll gather around at some point later in the season that at the very least will be mid-table. But it's probably not the worst time to play them. They've not created that much. I don't think they've been letting too much go at the other end. But yeah, I think, you know, as I always like to say, we've got quite a tight little pitch. They're going to want to try and expand the game a little bit. Hopefully, we'll kind of clamp down on them and won't let them kind of open the game up with their possession in the way that they'd like to. And have a bit of a go at them. And, you know, we can take confidence from that Rotherham win. Hopefully, we'll have a couple of more attacking options back for Saturday. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that we can, you know, give them a bit of trouble, because they're not creating a great deal at the moment, and we know how miserly our defence is. And if we can kind of crack it, a little bit more going forwards, then I think it could be, you know, we could be in for a positive result, hopefully.
Well, we did create chances against them under Robbo last season, Glenn, but we ended up losing 4-0, and it did flatter them. And obviously, we went to the game at the MK Stadium, and we didn't really get near them that day. But like you say, like Joel said, they were on a roll then. But obviously, they're through to the next round of the Carabao Cup as well, because they had a good result. So when we get Crawley away, they'll probably get Man U at home, so they'll be ecstatic. So it'll be a good time to play them, Glenn.
Yeah, it will. And looking at those stats that Joel mentioned, and the way we're so cagey and miserly, it's got 4 apiece written all over it on Saturday, hasn't it?
Exactly, 100%.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd take that, Rod.
Yeah, what, 4 apiece?
Oh,
dear me.
Yeah, I think from that point of view, listening to Joel there about the stats, I was desperate to interject with, like, it's got 0-0 written all over it here.
Oh, no.
Not a chance.
Yeah, 3-3, 4-4. Be nice to see us score a few.
As you know, I am the world's worst tipster. Absolutely terrible. So if I put my money on anything, obviously, you know, I always say, if I stick on a horse in the Grand National, the glue factory opens its gates ready for it, because it's just like, Freez has put money on me. So that's the way it is. But obviously, you know, we've had a really good week. Okay, we lost at Bolton, drew at Oxford, beat Rotherham, second win of the season, but not on penalties. It would be nice to get something, but it's going to be tricky, Rod.
Yeah, it is going to be tricky, but you know, it's not about, for me, it's not about worrying about the opposition. It's about looking at ourselves, developing that squad, and sometimes, you know, in adversity, few players out, as Joel said before, it gives others the opportunity to come out and shine and prove what they can do. So I'm looking forward to Saturday, and I am looking forward to it optimistically as well.
Good. So before we wrap up, any news from the boardroom? I know Ben is doing an update. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's a regular update, doesn't he? He's part of the role, just to you know, keep everybody informed. Beyond that, you know, I've mentioned about the draw, and that if we are successful in getting some extra funds in, that will be made available to the manager. That's absolutely crucial. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation about Worcester Warriors this week. That's been flying about, and again, you know, we put a statement out there that, and I'll reinforce this. The situation at Worcester does not impact on Morecambe Football Club at all. You know, the only tie-up there is both clubs have got, you know, the same joint owners. No more, no less. We don't owe Worcester Warriors a penny, and it's a totally separate, you know, it's a totally separate company. So no impact.
And that puts that one to bed then, doesn't it? So that's good.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So we're coming out a day early because obviously it's the Shrimps Trust AGM on Thursday evening, Joel.
Yeah, it is indeed. I might put it on Friday. I'm not sure. I'm
All
undecided.
right, okay, so we might not be a day early.
Yeah, we'll find out. But, yeah, got to keep them guessed, haven't you? But yeah, no,
Not to get it up and going.
But I think yeah, with the AGM, obviously, I would advertise it, but by the time anybody's going to be listening to this, it could well be over all the same day. So maybe not. But yeah, if you have come down, you know, your presence will be welcomed, and yeah, hopefully it'll be a good night, and we'll discuss a few things and get some ideas going and update everybody.
And the one thing I haven't mentioned is that while Rod's busy showing us the sunset, which is magnificent as always. Yeah, we can see that. Thank you. And I like your blinds. And Glenn's showing us the sunset on his picture. Thank you. Yeah, the one thing I haven't mentioned, Everton in the Papa John's,
Yes.
which is next Tuesday. I think we might, judging by the amount of the young lads he put on the bench last night, we might see a few of them, might we? Joel?
Yeah, very possibly. It'd be you know, it'd be nice to see some of them given a bit of a shot. Obviously, the Papa John's is what the Papa John's is, isn't it? You know, there's a reason people haven't really taken it that seriously over the past few years, and you know, a lot of clubs are the same. But like you say, it might be a very nice opportunity now to give a few of the younger players a bit of a go. You know, we saw Andre da Silva Mendes obviously make his debut last season. I thought he did an all right job. So maybe we'll see a few more of those young players who've come through the youth setup, given a bit of a shot, especially with a few injuries and illnesses flying around the squad.
Yeah,
The thing is, Joel, early on, it's not particularly attractive, but it is a route to Wembley. I feel it should be taken seriously, and ultimately, there's money to be earned out of it. So it's a balance, though, as well. And I get we've got to blood these young lads and give them some experience.
And Everton, obviously, it's Everton under 21s, is it? Everton under 21s. And it always amazed me when we played Man United under 21s and they all turned up in a coach, apart from the three superstars who had a Mercedes limo each. And then we spanked them 4-1. And Freddie Price scored the best goal of the night. So it just goes to show you, Mercedes, no good. There you go. So, yeah, thank you for listening. This has been episode 5 of the ShrimpNet. Thank you to the guests for tonight. Rod, for your honesty, Glenn, for your insight, and Joel for your stats, as usual. We were interrupted by dogs barking and Rod freezing on me when I asked him an important question. You're doing that on purpose, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to deal with it, Rod. Thanks for listening. I'm saying if you listen to this on Thursday, that, it'll be great, but Joel's just told me it might not go out on Thursday, so it might be Friday as normal. So we'll see you on the terraces. Join us next week when we will obviously talk about the first home win of the season in an 8-0 thrashing of MK Dons, which nobody saw coming, and me being in the nut house. Thanks for listening.